All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling a habit that's honestly just as frustrating as it is incredibly common: the constant burning need to over-explain ourselves. You know the feeling, right? You suddenly realize you've been talking for way too long, piling on details and justifications when a single, simple sentence would have done the trick. So, we're going to look closely at the internal patterns driving this everyday behavior, breaking down the true psychology behind why we just can't seem to stop talking.
Have you ever caught yourself giving a full-blown 10-minute backstory just to justify a simple no? Or maybe you felt the urge to explain every single tiny detail of your day just to make absolutely sure no one gets the wrong idea about you? In the moment, well, it kind of feels like you're just being super thorough or maybe just really polite. But as we're going to see, psychology tells a much deeper, hidden story about why you feel so compelled to fill the silence with so many words.
Let's start with Part 1, the over-explaining shield.
Psychology actually reveals a fascinating hidden architecture behind this urge. The myth we constantly tell ourselves is that we're just being detail-oriented or considerate. But the reality? Over-explaining is actually an emotional shield. It's a psychological tool we use to navigate a world that, honestly, often feels pretty uncertain. It's a protective layer we wear, not just a way to spice up a conversation.
Moving on to Section 2, the unheard inner child.
Think about it like this. If your emotions were historically ignored, or maybe you were constantly compared to others growing up, your brain internalized a deeply painful lesson: I'm not that important. And this isn't just a fleeting, sad thought, you know? It actually creates a hardwired emotional pattern. You start feeling like you literally have to work harder and speak way longer just to guarantee you aren't completely overlooked again.
Because of that, your mind builds the ultimate defense mechanism. You essentially learn to use a giant wall of words to preemptively de-escalate situations. You're not just sharing information, you are actively trying to earn your place in the conversation because deep down you believe your value is conditional. The fear of saying the wrong thing is just so overpowering that you throw in every possible bit of context to avoid conflict. You're trying to dodge the sting of judgment before the threat even begins.
Which brings us to Section 3. Controlling social chaos.
When real life feels totally unpredictable, your brain desperately tries to turn all that social chaos into something it can actually manage. And how exactly does it do that? By making up and rehearsing fake scenarios in your head. Oh yeah, we all do it. You practice exactly what you're going to say word for word just so you can feel a tiny sense of preparedness. You crave that mental stimulation just to grasp at some kind of stability.
And that perfectly illustrates why over-explaining is really just the real-world extension of wanting to remain the internal driver of every single interaction. When you're the one doing all the talking, supplying all the context, and laying out all the variables, well, you feel like you're the one driving the car. It's basically your mind's way of making sure you dictate the narrative and carefully manage exactly how other people perceive you.
This intense pressure for stability literally forces you into a fixer mentality. Let's break it down. Step 1, you sense even the slightest hint of tension in a room. Step 2, boom, your brain shifts instantly into problem-solving mode. And Step 3, you immediately use your explanations to smooth things over and keep the peace. You've essentially tied your self-worth to being the reliable one who makes sure everyone is on the exact same page, even when, let's be real, it's totally not your job to do so.
Now let's dive into Section 4, the fear of replacement.
This is where the psychology gets super fascinating and honestly a little heartbreaking. Your mind starts predicting massive loss over incredibly small, everyday things. Say you notice a tiny trigger, like a late text reply. Immediately, your mind begins predicting loss and misunderstanding. It assumes the absolute worst, completely terrified that this tiny slip-up means people are just going to replace you. So what do? You over-explain to urgently patch that perceived crack in the relationship. The ultimate goal here is to make yourself easier to keep. You completely exhaust yourself trying to be the person who answers absolutely everything, never leaving a single question unanswered before it's even voiced. You think that by being perfectly clear and accommodating, you're securing your spot in people's lives. But the only real guarantee this strategy gives you? Pure, draining emotional exhaustion.
All right, our final section, number 5, finding power in silence.
A huge part of breaking this exhausting cycle is understanding exactly how your brain is tricking you. Psychology shows us that your brain actually confuses thinking with progress. We call this the dopamine reward. When you imagine a super detailed, highly successful conversation where you perfectly explain yourself, your brain literally gives you a hit of dopamine. It feels like you've already solved the problem in real life, which just reinforces the urge to keep planning and explaining.
But by constantly over-explaining, you stay trapped in those mental rehearsals. You're staying completely attached to the mere potential of being understood. Actual progress, on the other hand, means stepping out of that mental loop and letting your actions speak for themselves. You have to trade that comfy illusion of control for the messy reality of genuine connection.
And this brings us to the most crucial takeaway of this entire explainer. You do not have to overgive your words to be valuable. Just let that sink in for a second. Your simple no is enough. Your silence is absolutely not a lack of care. You don't need a 10-minute backstory, and you certainly don't need to earn your right to set a basic boundary.
Once you recognize that this whole behavior is really just your mind's clever, slightly frantic way of protecting your independence and managing deeply rooted anxiety, you finally have the power to change it. You understand the architecture now. So, knowing all of this, what does it mean for you? Which path are you going to choose next? Are you finally ready to put down the shield of over-explaining and just let your actions speak for themselves?